In the high-stakes world of 1990s GT racing, one car stands as a testament to both daring ambition and harsh reality: the Lotus Elise GT1. Known internally as Type 115, this race car emerged in 1997 as Lotus Car's bold attempt to compete with automotive giants in the prestigious FIA GT Championship. The story begins in 1994, when Lotus was campaigning their Esprit GT1 in the BPR Global GT Series. The Esprit GT1, based on their road-going Esprit, held its own against formidable competitors like the McLaren F1 GTR, Venturi 600 LM, and Ferrari F40 GTE. However, the racing landscape underwent a seismic shift in 1996 when Porsche introduced their purpose-built 911 GT1. This was followed by Mercedes-Benz's announcement of their CLK GTR project for 1997. Lotus, operating from their facility in Hethel, Norfolk, England, knew they needed to respond. But unlike Porsche and Mercedes-Benz, they lacked the massive financial resources needed to develop both race cars and the required street-legal variants. Their solution was ingenious. They would build just one road car, the minimum required to meet homologation rules. The development team, led by designer Julian Thompson, chose to base their new race car on the Lotus Elise platform rather than the aging Esprit. The Elise's lightweight aluminum chassis was extensively modified, and a new carbon fiber and kevlar body was crafted. The resulting car measured 178 inches in length and 81 inches in width, with a wheelbase of 105 inches. The front and rear axle width were both set at 78.7 inches, with front overhang of 37 inches and rear overhang of 35.2 inches. The road version weighed 2,315 pounds, while the race version came in at a lighter 2,094 pounds. The engine specifications were remarkable. The Type 9 18-water-cooled V8 engine was positioned behind the driver in a central rear longitudinal layout. It featured a 90-degree V configuration with aluminum cylinder blocks. The valve arrangement was precisely engineered, with intake valves at 21 degrees to bore centerline and exhaust valves at 20 degrees. The engine utilized dual overhead camshafts per cylinder head, with 2 valves each for intake and exhaust per cylinder. Initially, Lotus planned to use their own 3.5-liter Type 9 18 twin-turbocharged V8, capable of producing 550 horsepower at 6,500 revolutions per minute. However, reliability issues led the factory team to opt for a Chevrolet 5.7-liter V8 engine from the Corvette, a connection dating back to Lotus's period under General Motors ownership. The Chevrolet engine was extensively modified with a carbon intake and dry sump system. The transmission system was equally sophisticated. The road car used a Renault 5-speed manual gearbox positioned longitudinally behind the engine. The gearbox used wet sump oil lubrication. 7 racing chassis were built by GTI Racing, financed by Toyn Hesemans and Lotus president Roman Artioli. These were distributed among various teams: the factory GT1 Lotus Racing Team, GBF UK, and Martin Valley Racing. Only the factory team and Valley Racing chose the Chevrolet V8 option. The 1997 racing season began at Hockenheim on April 13th. All 4 Elise GT1s, 3 factory cars, and the privateer GBF entry failed to finish due to alternator problems. At Silverstone on May 11th, GBF UK received their second car, an untested chassis number 06, driven by Andrea Boldrini and Mauro Martini. Again, all three factory cars retired with gearbox issues, though one GBF car managed to finish, albeit 25 laps behind the winner. The Helsinki race brought a glimmer of hope. With a smaller field of 23 cars, only 3 Elise GT1 entered, but GBF secured 5th place and championship points. All 3 cars finished the race, marking improvement for the program. The 24 hours of Le Mans proved devastating. Only one Elise GT1 was entered, reflecting concerns about the car's durability, and it suffered an engine block failure after 121 laps. The subsequent races showed little improvement. At the Nürburgring, best result was 11th. Spa yielded 8th place. At Zandvoort, all 5 cars failed to finish. The teams skipped Suzuka entirely. Upon returning to Europe, they managed only 12th at Donington and 11th at Mugello. For the final American races, the factory team introduced specially prepared NASCAR-style Chevrolet engines with 2 valves, 1 cam, and an iron block. This modification, along with weight increases, allowed for larger restrictors, resulting in more power. The team managed 13th and 5th place finishes. The road version featured unique specifications beyond its engine. It utilized a double wishbone suspension system on both front and rear, complemented by an aluminum roll cage bolted directly to the chassis. The aerodynamic body was carefully crafted to maximize downforce while maintaining visual similarities to the production Elise. After the disappointing 1997 season, former factory driver Mike Hezemans believed the Elise GT1's main shortcomings lay in its power and aerodynamics. With financial backing from his father Twan Hezemans, who owned 2 former factory chassis, he undertook an ambitious redesign project. Working with chief mechanic Hans Willemsen and mechanics Peter Claassen and Mario van Beek in their small Dutch workshop, they extensively reworked the car. The front end was lengthened and smoothed for better downforce. Most significantly, they replaced the V8 with Chrysler's 356T6 8.0-liter V10 engine, producing 626 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. To make the cars legal for FIA competition, they partnered with German manufacturer Erich Bitter, creating the Bitter GT1. However, at Silverstone, its only competitive outing, both cars failed to finish, the V10's massive torque overwhelming the Hewland gearbox. An attempted switch to a Gemini transmission unit didn't help, and after failing to complete practice at Hockenheimring, the project was abandoned. The Bitter GT1's story didn't end there. One car survives today, owned by the Hezemans family. It was restored to its 1998 specification by NASCAR Wellen Euro Series team Hendricks Motorsport and tested at TT Circuit Assen in January 2021 by Loris Hezemans, Toan's son. The original road-going Elise GT1's whereabouts remain somewhat mysterious. Last seen publicly at the Le Mans Classic nearly a decade ago, some sources claim it remains in Lotus's possession in an English warehouse, while others suggest it may have found its way to a private collection in the Netherlands. One final resurrection attempt occurred in 2003 when British squad team Elite purchased Chassis 05. Their plan mirrored a similar strategy by Pagnos and French team Labre Competition to repurpose their Pagnos Esperante GTR1 as a closed cockpit prototype. However, at the 2004 12 Hours of Sebring, the aged Elise GT1 managed only 7 laps before transmission failure ended its racing career permanently. The Elise GT1 project was homologated on April 1, 1997, with homologation ending December 31st, 2004. During this period, it demonstrated both the innovative spirit of Lotus and the harsh realities of competing against better-funded manufacturers. The car's technical specifications were impressive on paper. The Type 918 engine's sophisticated valve timing, the carefully calculated transmission ratios, and the advanced aerodynamic design all spoke to Lotus's engineering excellence. The project also showcased the evolution of GT1 class racing in the late 1990s. What began as a category for modified road cars had transformed into an arena for purpose-built racing machines, forcing smaller manufacturers like Lotus to stretch their resources to compete. The Elise GT1 represented a bold attempt to bridge this gap, even if it ultimately fell short of its goals. The legacy of the Elise GT1 extends beyond its racing results. It remains connected to several significant models in Lotus history, including the Lotus Esprit GT1, Lotus Esprit S4, Lotus Elise S1, and Lotus Exige S1. Its development story involves noteworthy figures in automotive history, from designer Julian Thompson to the Hezemans family, whose continued preservation of the Bitter GT1 keeps this chapter of racing history alive.